I went in there, I was a little boy, and I got groomed. After a while, he told me if I ever told anyone, he'd murder my family, and then he'd murder me. And I stayed clean for 7 years, and I started doing the steps, and I got to step 4. And I had to close the book. I went back out and I relapsed. That trauma, that little boy inside came up again, you know.
Tonight's guest, film director, actor, and writer, Philip A. McCarthy from Cork, Ireland, is here to share his story of childhood trauma, addiction, and recovery. And if you don't know who I am, watch this.
I spent 23 years living in addiction. 16 of those years, I worked as a Red Seal tradesperson in Saskatchewan and Northern Alberta. During that time, I made many mistakes and took more than a few hard knocks. I went from tradesman to business owner to hiding from gang members and dumpster diving. But with that lived experience, I've decided to try and make a change. I've dedicated my life to raising awareness and promoting change in the fields of substance use and psychological health and safety. So join me and my guests as we take off the blinders around mental health in our communities and at work, and shine a light on what's working and what's not working in the fields of mental health and occupational health and safety. I'm Daniel Unmanageable, and I'll be your host, and this is Hard Knocks Talks.
All right, just so you know, tonight's show is brought to you in part by Prairie Sky Recovery Centre in Leipzig, Saskatchewan, and Stronger Together Canada, peer-led support groups by Moms Stop the Harm. Let's bring in Philip.
Hello, Daniel.
What's up, Philip? How you doing?
How you doing? Are you good?
Good.
Thanks for having me, inviting me on the show.
Yeah, no problem, man. Is there anything that you'd like to say before we get started tonight?
I suppose basically, I'm just grateful for where I'm at in my life today. It's been a long road, but I suppose I'm grateful for what I have today and having my health back. You know.
All right, man. Glad you're here. Let's jump in. All right, before we go, if you're watching this on the replay and you'd like to see, let me start that again. If you're watching on the replay and you like what you see, jump on over to www.hardknockstalks.com to stay up to date on all our upcoming live and interactive streams. Philip, where do we begin? Why don't you tell us a little bit about what it was like growing up?
I suppose basically, Daniel, growing up for me, it would have been very difficult. I think I always had the isms of being an alcoholic and an addict at a very young age. And I suppose if I was
What do you mean? What do you mean the isms?
I could never fit in. I could never fit in with anyone. I always felt I was on the outside looking in, even with my family and stuff. And I come from a very respectable family. My dad was a businessman and my mom was a housewife, and there was no addiction in our family in any way. But I suppose what with me is that I realized that there wasn't something right with me. I was kind of I would have been bullied in school growing up. And it was like, if I was to turn around to people today and tell them, did they know that Cork had their own Jimmy Savile in the 70s, 80s, and 90s and 2000s? People probably wouldn't believe me, And
so, though, for those who might not know, who's Jimmy Savile?
Jimmy Savile was basically a child molester, a paedophile, wasn't he? That was it Jim Fix-It or something like that,
Yeah.
so
I only learned
and
who
he
he
was
was a few months ago, actually. I saw the documentary, so, but, maybe
yeah,
there's other people
yeah,
out there that don't know.
but for me, like, I suppose people probably wouldn't believe me, that, yeah, Cork had their own Jimmy Savile, and at the time, I was a 9-year-old boy, and I went into a bookshop. They used to have that the front of it was a bookshop, but the back of it was what I was what I was to learn later was uh, porn mags and kiddie mags and videos at the time, and I suppose at that time, Daniel, there was no internet. Yeah,
Hmm.
when I was growing up, so I always look back on it. How did these people get these magazines? And the man used to always be outside his bookshop, sitting on his chair, like a kitchen chair, outside in the rain, hail, or snow. And he used to wear a very distinct uh, cowboy chain, very distinct cowboy chain. And
Hmm.
I realized, I put it all together, and I said, "This is his calling card."
Yeah.
This is his calling card. So if someone's looking for these magazines or these videos,
Hmm.
these other pedophiles, obviously, this was his calling card, because there was no internet, and and I suppose for me, uh, I went in there. I was a little boy, and I got groomed.
So how did
Yeah.
you end up in that bookstore?
The bookstore was only down the road from me,
Hmm.
where I used to go to school, and I just went into the bookshop. It was a bookshop. There was kids magazines, normal comics and stuff on the front of the window. So
Hmm.
the grooming process was there from day one, if you could understand me.
Hmm.
The opening of a child's mind looking at a window with magazines, and but then you go in and there was obviously other books, and then but right at the back then there was
Yeah.
the filth, the
Yeah.
filth. That's what I would call it today. uh, and I suppose it was basically the grooming started, and then after a while he told me if I ever told anyone, he'd murder my family, and
Yeah.
then he'd murder me. So at 9 years of age, hearing these words from an adult,
Hmm.
like, I would have told my mum and dad everything when I was a child, but this was one thing I was never going to tell my family, because it was fear. Because
Yeah.
I always questioned myself, why did I keep going back to that shop? Why did I
Yeah.
keep going back to that shop to be abused? You know, and uh, and I realized today what kept on bringing me back to that shop was fear,
Hmm.
fear of what would happen to my family. You
Yeah.
know, and then he obviously he had a lot of connections and stuff like that, and he had other men in his ring, and he introduced me to another man, and then there was another man. I think there was three men altogether. There were two men I remember, but the third man is very vague,
So how long did
and
that go
maybe
on
there's a
for?
reason I don't remember it. You know,
Hmm.
maybe there's a reason I don't remember the third man, if you can
Yeah.
understand me.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
but it was horrific, Daniel. It was horrific that I used to go into school then, and I couldn't concentrate in school. I couldn't study in school. So my thing in school was good attention, bad attention, give me some attention.
Hmm.
Do you understand? And
Hmm.
and even in school, I I couldn't fit in the class, and then I was actually, so the abuse was going on, and also there was bullying going on, severe bullying, and that went on for a number of years in my life. Uh, but the one thing that I grasped to, I locked onto, was drama. I loved
Hmm.
drama. I loved it. I loved being someone else, because I hated being me. I hated being me in my own skin. I hated everything about myself.
Now, was
Uh,
there a direct correlation to that, like between that hate and the things that were happening with the men, or did this hate come from
yes,
somewhere else?
no, this hate came from this hate came from the abuse.
So
I
you
know
knew it
that
was
today.
wrong, like you knew it was wrong from a very young age.
Yes, yeah, I
Yeah,
knew there was. I knew it was wrong.
yeah.
I knew there was something wrong, and I tell you, the most amazing thing about it is that I grew up and I had a very good friend, a childhood friend, who would have been like he would have been like a big brother to me. He would have protected me,
Mm-hmm.
and he he I was 14. Now bear in mind the abuse was going on from the age of 9 right up to 14. So by the time I was 14, I was really messed up in the head, right? But I was bound to tell him, and it was his first day in secondary school. And do you know the way you get a half day from school because it's your first day in secondary school? You're left go home early to get your book sorted for the next day, and he got knocked down.
Mm-hmm.
And he was 13 and he got knocked down and he ended up on a life machine, and eventually he passed away.
What do you
And
mean knocked
I was
down?
about to tell, he got knocked down by a car. He got hit by a car. He got hit by a car crossing the road after getting a half day from school. And I remember that coffin going into the ground, and I said to myself, who do I tell now? He was the only chance I had of telling anyone, because he would have went down to the shop, and this fella he was a tough little young fella, you know. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and I suppose I had no one to tell, so it was it became my little secret, if you can understand me. No one knew what was going on, and then I was introduced to hash, and I loved it. I
Who
loved the
introduced you to
feeling
hash?
hash gave me. Fellas that I grew up with, you know. Uh, and I loved it. I loved the feeling of hash. I loved everything about it. I loved getting stoned. I just loved getting that feeling of getting out of my head, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and then, obviously, as we all know, anyone that's in recovery knows that it was a stepping stone. It was a stepping stone to other drugs, you know. Uh, and in the end, was the drugs weren't doing nothing for me. Nothing.
Mm-hmm.
When I was used to be at house parties, and uh, they, I was the loneliest person in that house party. Even the amount of drugs I had in me, and watching people enjoying themselves, and I knew that like this wasn't right. This isn't, you know. And I went on for a number of years, and I got barred from pubs and this, that, and the other, and getting in trouble with the guards. Not as
Mm-hmm.
much now, getting in trouble with the guards. I never went to prison, but I had
Mm-hmm.
a few incidents with the guards, and I suppose with that, Daniel, as we all know, we all end up getting caught up with the wrong people
Yeah.
when we're in addiction. And so I was being watched by the guards because I was with the wrong people,
Yeah.
but they were watching me then as well, you know. And but that went on for a number of years, and then with suicide attempts, and hated myself. I just hated everything about myself. I hated myself so much.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I hated my skin. I remember, like, after the abuse, going back home and going up and having a shower and stuff like that, and tried to wash the abuse off me. It was horrific, horrific. Uh, and I suppose I tried to take action against him then, and that's another story. The DPP wouldn't take action against him because he was a productive or a
Prominent.
prominent member of society.
Mm-hmm.
And because of who he was, and yeah, it
So
was a roller coaster.
do you think they didn't believe you? Or do you think that they just didn't do anything because of who he was?
I think it was two things. I don't think they believe me because
Mm-hmm.
at that time, I think at that time, like, it's only in the last number of years that abuse is really coming out. People are, no, they're going back years and years. and there was massive talk about statutory limitations at the time with my case and all this and that and the other. And then I heard that my file didn't go to the DPP, and then I heard that the DPP wrote to me and said they weren't dealing with the file. And then I went into a Garda station, and the guards told me they never heard of this case, and I was this detective's right hand man. And I said, "This is mad. This is," and I realized. I said, "You know what? He was protected. He was protected because of who he was." And I realized then, because I looked into it and I said, you know, where it happened, I started working on it in my mind, and it was like there was a ring right around it, right around from the bookshop where I was abused. There was the church. Right around from the church, there was the South Mall, one of the richest streets in Europe. Then you go right around again, and there was Union Quay Garda Station. So it was one big circle. And I said, there's the bookshop right in the middle. And I was saying, the reason that, and I only heard this about a year ago, that the landlord of the shop told me that he used to see guards and past judges in there buying magazines.
Yeah.
So there was my answer. You know, I remember going up to an NA meeting at the time, and something told me, because I used to never go down that street, something told me, go down that street. And I went down that street, and there that the landlord was outside the shop, and I said, whoa, this is mad. You know, and I started to talk to this fella, and I said, where used the bookshop be? And he says, this is the bookshop. And I said, so are you just cleaning it out? And he goes, no, I'm the landlord. And then he told me he came in one morning, and the paedophile ringleader had the whole bookshop cleaned out from top to bottom, empty, gone.
Yeah.
So that's when I was going after him with the guards, you know. So I don't know. It's a bit messed up.
Yeah.
It's a bit messed up, you know.
So tell us, like, after this abuse ended, and you mentioned that you were getting in with the wrong crowd, getting into drugs. How were you supporting yourself during all of this time?
Well, I was on the dole, and I used to be doing a scheme, week on and week off scheme. So there was always a few bob, and we were peddling a bit of coke as well at the time, me and another fella. So, and we were never going to make money, because the two of us were addicts. Like, we were getting high on our own supply. Like, in the end, you know. So we were never going to make money. So, but yeah. I suppose everyone kind of gets caught up in it, really, don't they? In peddling and stuff.
Fair enough. You know? I was a terrible drug dealer too.
Yeah.
So what finally did it for you? Like, what brought you into recovery?
What brought me to recovery was my mom's brother was in AA, and my mom asked her brother, would she take me to an AA meeting, because my drinking was after getting very heavy. My mom kind of never knew of the drugs as such. She knew that I used to be out of my head, you know, because she never knew how heavy it was, you know. And he took me to an AA meeting, and I never forget it, man. It's something that always sticks in my mind, and I may have to laugh about it now, but it's something that sticks in my mind. Is that they were all in the room. They were all in their 60s, right? At the time, they were all wearing duffel coats. If you know what the duffel coats are, the brown duffel coats, the heavy coats, like big woolly coats, right?
Okay.
And they were like, they were on death's doorstep, right? And I was saying to myself, I'm 18 years of age. And I said, what am I doing here? And my pockets were full of coke. My pockets were full of drugs, and then I mentioned about drugs, and it was like they threw daggers from me left, right, and center. You don't mention drugs inside this room, and you know, he's in the wrong place, and you know, and I just stormed out. But I think that day or that night at that AA meeting, the seed was planted. If you can understand me, the seed was planted.
So wait a minute, hang on. Stop just for a second here. I have questions about this. So you started talking about drugs. How much of the meeting did you get through before they started pointing daggers? Oh, and I'm getting hugs. Love you, buddy. Yeah. Um,
Eh, I started sharing and talking, I'd say about 10 minutes sharing, and then I started talking about drugs, and then it was like they all came in and they started. I was 18 years of age at the time, like, so this was this was old school AA, and you never
yeah.
talked about drugs at the time in old school AA, but it's different today.
Yeah. Yeah.
The people in AA realize that a lot of people are cross addicted coming into recovery, so.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and it was just like, Jesus, I said, these daggers are coming from everywhere. I said, they don't want me here at all. I said, and I called them all a shower of names, and I stormed out of the room, and I said, this is unbelievable. I said, I'm not
So,
going back there no more.
but something was planted there, like that. After having that experience, you walk through those doors. I mean, for me, like walking through those doors is a statement of powerlessness in itself, right? You walk through those doors because
Yeah,
it's the last door on the block most of the time. So, was that
yeah.
like? Do you think maybe that's what it was? Like you actually took some action, and then now you're using can never be the same again.
Well, to be honest, I don't think I only done it for my mum. I only done it
Hmm.
for my mum. My mum said, I'm sick to death of him. You need to take him to an AA meeting. You need to do something with him. Because
Yeah.
my mum was getting worried. And then my dad used to say to me, he said, you're going to be dead by the time you're 19.
Mm-hmm.
You won't reach 19. You won't reach. And then when 20 came, he said, you'll be dead before you're 21. He said, you're getting off. You're just. And
Yeah.
every year, he used to say, because we all know with addiction, it just it progresses and progresses and progresses, and
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately it's jails, institutions, and debt, you know
Yeah.
uh, and and I suppose, like, I remember doing a scheme. It was kind of like it was like an adolescence course. It was in Mayfield in Cork, and I met this lady up there, and she was in AA.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to come in the mornings, on a Monday morning after being out the weekend, and I used to be in a cruel state, and I'd be getting sick and bringing up boil out the side of the building. And she came out to me one day and she goes, Phil, would you like to come to an AA meeting? And I said, I was at one before. I said, they didn't like me. I said, they didn't like me at all. They told me get out.
Yeah.
No, and she says, no, she said, would you come with me? And I remember I went to the AA meeting with her that time, and she was a great help to me, and she's still there. And I only met her only a couple of weeks ago in town in the city, and she was delighted to see me, because I wasn't after seeing her in a few years. But
Mm-hmm.
she would have been a great support for me, because she reached out to me, and obviously with the trauma and stuff like that, I was eventually going to end up in a treatment center,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
Uh, and I went to the meetings, and then I said, I relapsed again and went back out, and was going in and out to the meetings, and then it was come to the stage I'd only go to a meeting when I had no money, right?
Hmm.
When I had no money, I go to a meeting,
Got to get that coffee.
not to get that free coffee, get that free coffee, go to a
Yeah.
meeting, get a free coffee, and but but then I suppose every time I went to a meeting, but then I realized, I said, I'm looking around, and I said, there's one thing that these people have. They're content. They're content in themselves.
Mm-hmm.
They were smiling. They were laughing. They were having a laugh. And
Mm-hmm.
sure, we all know then, see, when we first go to meetings at the start, we all think they all know our stories inside out. Someone told them about us, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, and I thought they were talking about me. I said, and I was saying, my mum's brothers, after telling all them know about me, and that's why they're talking like that. Because I could identify with what they were saying, yeah?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
no, it just went on. And then by the time I reached 25, I was 9 stone. I was after being in a number of different relationships that were just toxic, because I was toxic. So I'm a great believer in the law of attraction, that
Mm-hmm.
what I give out, I'm going to get back. And that's what I got back. And I said to me, Mum, I remember one time, I was supposed to go to the north, up for a big piss up with the lads. And I came back from the north, and I said to me, Mum, I said, Mum, I can't do this anymore. I need to go to a treatment centre. And it was like, I never forget my mum's eyes that time. It was like a light went on in my mum's eyes. He's after realising. And I was 25, I was 9 stone. And yeah, went to the treatment centre, came out, stuck with the winners. And to be honest, I used to go to NA meetings, but the only reason I was going to NA meetings is because I met this fella in the NA meetings, and he used to have a big selection of DVDs, right?
Yeah.
Films. So I knew if I go to the meeting, I go back to his place and watch the DVDs, and I could watch the DVDs for hours and hours, and I loved it. And that's the
Yeah.
only thing that kept me clean for a long time, going to the meetings, watching the DVDs after the meeting, going back to his place. And I stayed clean for 7 years. And I started doing the steps, and got to step 4, and
Yeah.
I had to close the book. I went back out and I relapsed. That trauma, that little boy inside came up again, you know. And I went out for 6 months, and then I got back to the meetings again, and you know what? I had 3 relapses. I had three severe relapses in 23 years, where I was very close to death. My last relapse, and I after being 5 treatment centres later, I finally found myself. I went to intense counselling for the trauma in Cork, in a thing called Harbour Counselling, and they were great. And they asked me when I went into when I went into when I went in the first day to the counselling, they said, Phil, what do you want from us? What do you really want from us when you're leaving? And I said, my answer was, I want to be able to give a little boy a hug. I want to be able to give a little boy inside me a hug. That's all I want. I don't want much, just a little boy, because at the moment I hate that little boy so much, you know. And we done a very, very intense counselling, and all that trauma come up in that little boy stuff and that abuse and everything. And it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy. It started. I went for my first session of counselling in 2009.
Yeah.
And I only finished 3 years ago. After they left the book open for me, because they said he's going to come back. We know he's going to come back. And I finished it, and then I went into my treatment centre. And yeah, it's been a roller coaster, buddy. It's been a roller coaster. And 5 treatment centres later, I'm just going back to my story. In 2007, I was waiting around for an NA meeting, and I seen these neon lights in a casino. And I went into the casino, and I was playing the machine. I'll never forget it. And I didn't know what I was doing with the machine, how I was playing the machine. And I won the jackpot. I won a substantial amount of money. And I was automatically hooked to gambling. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
just take a minute here now. You said you had a number of serious relapses. Was that, and then you mentioned the step 4 is what took you back out.
Yeah.
Was that always about the time where you would head back out, is when you came face to face with that trauma?
Always step 4. Always step 4. I could not continue on in the 12 steps. When I hit step 4, the pain was just too much. I wanted something just.
And it was outside help that eventually helped you work past that.
Yes.
Okay.
I remember going to that outside help and finishing that sessions of intense counselling, and coming out that door, and it was like a massive weight off my shoulder. But even though I was after dealing with the counselling, I still had that burning, horrible anger inside me of hatred towards them men, right? And I remember my sponsor, God rest his soul, he was from Dublin, Paul S. And he said to me, not you, not Tom, not Dick, or not Harry. You need to believe in a power greater than yourself to restore you to sanity. And I used to laugh. I used to cringe when he used to say it. I said, don't you talk about God to me. Don't even go there. Anyone that mentioned God in meetings, I just detested him because I never believed in God. I never believed in that. I never believed how powerful prayer was because I've never felt it. But now I believe how powerful it is. I believe that I cannot do this alone. I cannot do this on my own. I need support through my peers, through meetings, but I also need a God of my understanding to take away that insanity. You know? And I went into my last treatment center was the turning point in my recovery. I believe I had a spiritual awakening down there because of the gambling and my head was so messed up. I was put on a lot of medication going into treatment, and just something came into my head in treatment. You need to stop taking these tablets out of the blue. And I said, where is this coming from? And I ended up walking out that door on one tablet out of that treatment center. After being there for 3 months, I ended up walking out that door after I'm only on one tablet now a day compared to 6 tablets that I used to be on. And one of the things that came into my mind as well was, now is your time to bring a God into your life and forgive other human beings for what they have done to you. And this came out of the blue. So I went down to a priest that used to be down in the treatment center, and I said to him, I said, Father Con, where's this after coming from? He said, don't question it. Go with it. God is coming into your life. You're after opening up to God. He's finally in you. And I walked out that door of that treatment center, and I went into a step-down house, and what the power in prayer, and I felt like that there was a shield always around me when I walked out. When I go out the door in the mornings, even today, I get up in the morning, say my prayers, and before I go to bed at night, I say my prayers. I always, if I'm in town, I'd light no candle in the church. You know, I can't do this alone, and God is with me now. And a fella said to me, he goes, "You're different today, Phil. What's after changing? God is with me." And he didn't believe, he didn't have a clue what I was on about because he's not in recovery, right? He's not in recovery, so he didn't have a clue what I was saying. But people could see the change in me, the change in the anger was gone, the horrible person that I became, you know, that horrible vicious anger that was inside me, that burning anger was gone. I was at peace.
So when you look back now, you know, how God has come into your life now, and you look back to when all of that stuff happened, do you ever ask yourself where was God then?
I did. I did. I always, and that's a big question. I always, where I used to say, where's God? Like that. And that was one of the questions I used to say to my sponsor. I said, where was God when that man locked that door and locked me into that room? Where was God when that man locked the 3 doors and locked me into the back room? Where was he? And I used to cringe then, but now I know that God was with me, but he couldn't do nothing. What could he do?
Yeah.
You know? It was my journey and was my life, and you know, unfortunately, I was a child. I was 9 years of age, and unfortunately, I was assessed at a young age. So I had the mind of a 5-year-old at 9. I was assessed, professionally assessed. So basically, I was a 5-year-old, and he was abusing a 5-year-old child, you know, in the mind, even though I was 9 in the age, and I went down from the age up to nearly 18, 19, because by the time I was 18, 19, I was only 14, 15 in the mind. So
Yeah.
I didn't know, I even though it was messed up, you know what? But you know what? I forgive that man today. I forgive that man for what he did to me. I forgive them other men for what they did to me. I've a beautiful life today. I'm actually living I'm actually technically homeless after walking away from a past relationship because it wasn't for me, and I made a decision, you know, to walk away because today I will do anything. I will do anything for my recovery.
Yeah.
And if that means to walk away from a relationship where I'm not comfortable, and it was my house in time, the strength of my house in time. I got that house, a brand new house, and I was only in that house 3 months, and I walked away. I had to walk away for my own peace of mind.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, I always know that was always going to be a house. It was never going to be a home.
Yeah. So you've been an actor, you've been a writer, a director,
Yeah.
and you continue to be these things. What role did your profession play in all of this? You know, like you said, from a young age, you liked acting because it helped you be something that other than yourself.
Mm.
So how did that help you through all of this?
I suppose acting was a huge thing for me. I love acting today. I still love acting. I even though I know today, I know at the time when I was in school, it was an escape.
Mm-hmm.
I used to escape from myself, but no, it's not an escape. I know that it's different today because I've developed from it. I've got
Mm-hmm.
self-confidence from it. I built
Yeah.
myself up from it, and I think, like for my writing and my scripts, I have awards for my material, my scripts and stuff, and I only learned how to read and write properly in 2000
Mm-hmm.
when I went to that my first treatment center.
And how old were you at the time?
I was 25.
Wow.
25. Yeah. Yeah. So,
And
but
with your writing,
it's
now I know, like when I was in my early recovery, I would do a lot of writing.
Yes.
Did some of your healing come through the writing that you did?
Yes. Yes. I have a new movie. I have a script wrote. We're hoping to be filming it here in Cork in the next few months. It's called Brothers. It's actually my story, but it's changed around to protect me. Obviously protect myself in ways, but it's a hard hitting movie. It's called Brothers, and the page is up on Facebook. But it's my story, but it's changed around to protect me. But today, I think, Daniel, I'm not afraid. I'm not ashamed to tell my story anymore. That's another thing. It was like, I think at the time when this was happening to me, the abuse and stuff, I think at that time it was all kind of, a lot of that was kind of brushed underneath the carpet. You know, it's not like that today.
Yeah.
Abuse is dealt with today. You know.
Yeah. Got a question coming in here from Red Based. Is drugs rivals still being made?
Sorry.
Is gun drugs rivals still being made? Is that a movie that you're working on?
Yes. Yeah, that's another movie we're working on. It's going to be made, but it's just it's slow development at the moment with the COVID putting an awful blocking and stuff like that. But it will be made in time.
Mm-hmm. So what do you do today? Like now that you've seemingly made peace with all of this, all of your past, and when things start to go sideways today, what do you do? Like, what does your maintenance look like?
I suppose I go to my meetings when I need meetings. At the moment, my father is dying. At the moment, my father's dying, and he's getting a slow death at the moment. He
Sorry
has
to hear that.
cancer, and I suppose it's hard to watch because for the man I am today, that grew up with anything that went pear shaped, I used to just run away and use.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and now I know that that's not the answer anymore. So I just have to bring a higher power into my life, and I do a bit of meditation. I meditate and stuff, and my prayers. I think prayer is a huge thing for me. This
Mm-hmm.
really have to help me an awful lot. Prayer and meditation.
Did you ever get past step 4?
I did. I got I done my step 4 and I done my step 5. I actually have the 12 steps done now. I done all
Hmm.
the 12 steps eventually. Took a
Hmm.
long road though, but I think it was 3 attempts after step 4. But the last time then I got over it because I was after getting the counselling done, and I was after finishing my treatment, and I was after finding God, and I was after forgiving the other human beings for what they did to me,
Hmm.
and I
So
was able to move on.
So tell us a little bit about step 6 and 7, turning it over and coming to see your own character defects and things like that. With all of this trauma that's been in your life, how did it feel to see that? Okay, well, I was an asshole here and I was an asshole here, and like, did that feel like, was that easy to come by for you?
No, no,
Yeah.
I found that very hard. I found that hard. Like, I think, to be honest, I think the most person I hurted in all this was my mum. I've hurted my mum. No, she
Mm-hmm.
loves me today, and but she was the one. My dad would just go to bed and he'd say, lock the door, leave him out. But my mum would be the one that would wait up, drinking all the cups of tea, and she used to smoke at the time, and all the cigarettes in the ashtray, and waiting for me to come home. And I suppose she used to be dreading that phone call as well,
Yeah.
that he's pulled out of the river or he's in a Garda station, or
Mm-hmm.
she and today, even today, she would still worry about me today. You know, she's still worried about me today. Even if I'm in the city now, late at night, she said, Phil, it's 1:30 now in the morning, nearly 2 o'clock. You want to be starting to head home. She said, like, I'm 47 years of age, and she's still,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I think she still has that fear of me going back to
You know,
the old me,
I think
And
all
I
our
said, Ma'am,
mums.
it's
I
just for
think all
today.
our
Like,
mums.
I'm more, yeah,
Yeah, I think they
yeah.
all got that fear a little bit.
I think it's a mother thing. It's a mother
Yeah.
instinct.
Yeah. Well, I think now
Yeah,
to my son going through some of the things that I went through, and man,
yeah,
like, and it's interesting because at the time when we're lost in that, we're thinking, oh well, I'm only hurting me. Like, why are they so mad? All I'm doing is hurting myself. Did you think that at the time?
yeah. I did. Yeah, I did. I did. I did. I used to say I'm not hurt no one, only myself. But then I used to realize I suppose it was when I really got sober, and when I went through after my third treatment center, I realized, what, I'm after doing a lot of damage to my family,
Mm-hmm.
because my sister didn't like me at all. She it's not that she didn't like me, but she hated what I was after doing to my mum. She
Mm-hmm.
hated the stress I put my mother under.
Yeah.
But no, today we get on very well. It's different today. You know,
Yeah.
but that took a long, long time for that that bond with me and my sister to get back together.
Yeah.
I think what it is too, Daniel, is that I think the trust thing, there'll always be a little gist with the trust with me and my mom and stuff, because of the damage that was done regarding the stress that she was put under.
So when did
You know.
I mean, your parents must know now about what you've
Yeah.
been through as a boy. When did that come to light, and how did that affect the dynamic of the family?
Uh, I suppose they blame themselves, that my dad probably blames himself that he didn't know about it.
Mm-hmm.
I told him when I was about 25, 26. Uh, but I suppose, like, he was fuming. He was angry. He was very angry. He said, I'll go down to him now. I said, but maybe that's the reason I didn't tell you when I was a child. If you're reacting like this now and I'm 26, what would he
Mm-hmm.
have done if I told him when I was uh, 9 or 10 years of age?
Mm-hmm. Got a question coming
So
in here. Tyler, thank you for the question. Tyler asks, is there a certain page or pages of the big book that you routinely go to for strength?
one of the pages will be obviously the 12 steps, and how it works will be a big chapter that I always read. How it works, I always go back to that. And there used to be a story as well. Oh, there was one story there. I can't remember now. There was one story I used to always go back to, but I think it's how it works would be always the one that does it for me. And obviously, step 3 and step 11 prayer.
Mhm.
You know, they would
Yeah.
be. They're the ones that.
Tyler's got another comment here. Tyler says, when I went through step 4 was when I realized I was hurting more than just myself. I think that's why step 4 is the hardest for so many to get through.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with Tyler. 100%. It's
Mm.
and I think I think it's the one as well that where you're gonna where you're either gonna go back out drinking or drugging or whatever the case may be, or you're going
Mhm.
to continue on and you're going to get through that step 4 and with the turbulence. You understand?
Mhm.
But I think, but I spoke to a lot of people regarding that, and like at conventions and that were probably had childhood trauma as well. Not as not where I was, but like other childhood trauma, and it was their step 4. Uh, they relapsed on their step 4 as well. And another thing would have been 7 years, 7 years clean and sober. I've the amount of people I met that were 7 years clean and sober that relapsed is just crazy. It's phenomenal.
Yeah.
I know
Yeah.
I know what it is. It must be a bogey year or something like that, because a lot of people relapse on 7 years, man. I
Mhm.
relapsed on 7 years and then no, but yeah, I'm 7 years and 5 months clean now again.
Uh-oh, danger zone.
Danger
So,
zone.
yeah. So, are you taking steps? I mean, after what you just said, you're 7 years, 5 months. Like when you started approaching 7 years, were you like, okay, let's maybe like let's
Yeah,
stay
yeah,
close
I
to
did.
the people I know?
Yeah, I did. I did. I stayed close. I stayed close to a lot of members that I still reach out to and talk to, uh,
Hmm.
and obviously my God,
Yeah.
close to God, with my big book and stuff like that, and just remember that where I'm after coming from. I think
Hmm.
not to forget that where I'm after coming from, because I think myself when I went into a treatment center, Daniel, you know, they never taught like I went into a treatment center. They told me they're going to show me, they're going to tell me how to stay sober, yeah, but they never told me, they never showed me how to live.
Hmm.
You understand? When I came out, I had
Yeah.
to learn how to live. I had to do things, going out and living on my own and stuff like that, and going to get sorted out with bills and getting electricity put on and stuff like that. These
Hmm.
were all just mind blowing to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mind blowing,
Food in the fridge.
you
Who's
know?
got food in the fridge?
Yeah. Food in the fridge
Yeah.
and that was a big thing then when I did get sober, when I was a couple of years sober. I remember living with a girl and having food in the fridge, but that was oh, see my
Yeah.
fridge full of food.
I have
That was
arrived.
a
I made
yeah,
it.
I've arrived.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 I might I might be still insane, but the fridge is full.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Yeah.
So, let's see here. I think we're coming to the end here. Why don't you tell us a little bit about where? I mean, you've won awards for your work in the film industry. Where can we
Yeah,
find
I
some
want
of your work or some of your work that's coming up?
I have I have a few short films on YouTube. One is called The Dark Room. Another one is called A Dark Horse, which it was a tough one because I acted and directed in it, and I'm doing the same in another short film soon. Uh, but my problem is I never brought in an AD for the one I done called A Dark Horse, and the other one then was my first feature film. It was called The Vein Within, and we were over in it actually went to the short film corner. The dark room went to the short film corner at the Cannes Film Festival. I was over at the Cannes Film Festival representing Ireland. The same
Hmm.
year there was only 9 films from Ireland selected, and the lads were looking for me. And right across the road from the red carpet, where they give out the Palme d'Or, I was down a lane with a load of fellas that were homeless, sitting down with my tuxedo on the ground. And the lads said, Phil, what are you doing? And I said, I'm just having a chat with the lads. But the lads, you know, the tears started pouring down their eyes when I started telling them about my story, little bits, you know, and because I don't forget where I come from, no matter where I go. I don't forget where I come from. And one of the lads said, we went over back. I remember saying that I'm going to come back here with my first feature film back to Cannes. And I remember people laughing at me saying, "No, man, that's impossible. You'll never make a feature film. It'll cost you too much money." And I remember contacting the Irish Film Board and sending them the script, and they sent me back the script, and they told me I need to concentrate on one character, sent it back, sent it forward, and I said, "Lads, let's be honest, you're not going to fund me in any way. You're not going to back my movie. So let's just call it a day. Leave me move on and make my movie, because I'll make my movie with or without you." And people used to say, "No, that's impossible. He can't make it." And I eventually got her over the line, and we got it edited. And I remember finishing the edit, and I getting back to my flat, and I'm just getting into bed, and the phone rings. And bear in mind, 3 days later, I had to be at the Cannes Film Festival by swift post, right? And the hard drive crashed, and we lost all the footage. And it was shot on mini tapes. Remember the mini tapes? The mini DVD tapes? There was 31 of them, of 2 hours or an hour of footage in each tape. And we had to go back. And I think that was my problem, why it didn't do well in the end, because we had to go back and fast edit it again. And it wasn't the best version we got to send to the Cannes Film Festival. We brought it to the Cannes Film Festival eventually, and we screened it for a number of different producers over there. And it was never meant to come out. That movie was never meant to come out, because the ups and downs in that movie, even though today it's very sentimental to me, that movie, it's actually a drug awareness feature film. It's called The Vein Within. And the lead actor, who was my best friend at the time, Trevor Carney, he played the lead role. Beautiful, natural actor, and he passed away in 2015. And I think there's 5 dead out of that movie that was made since 2014. There's 5 gone. A cameraman, the focus puller's dead. One of the extras, another extra. And I was saying, but this movie was never meant to come out because of the things that was after happening to it. But we got her over the line, and I got there, and the lads, when the lads turned around, and he says, "If you're looking for Phil now, he's going to be down the lane with the homeless across the road from the red carpet." And they were right. I was down the lane again with the homeless. They were drinking and sitting down, and they couldn't believe that I was wearing a tuxedo, sitting down with them. These were lads in shabby clothes, and I said I was where ye were. I was just in a bad place in my mind, and I said, "There's a way out." We tried to, but I suppose, you know what? The tears started pouring down their eyes and stuff. And they got up and they shook my hand, and one of them gave me a hug. One of the lads came down the lane and said, "Phil, you need to come over here. We're going down to one of the parties on the beach and stuff like that." And even though I was leaving them and I was going over, I wanted to stay with them. Mad, nah? I wanted to stay with them because I was only an elbow away from their war.
Yeah. Does that ever feel like home? You know what I mean? Yeah. Does that ever, you go down there and you sit down and you feel like you're at home?
Yeah. Felt like I was at home. Yeah. Felt like they were even though these lads were active and a lot of them were well out of it, but they were only an elbow away from where I was, And I suppose even though I want to just give them a bit of inspiration, that's what I wanted to give them.
Yeah. Awesome, man. All right. Well, I think we covered everything that we needed to cover, man.
Brilliant, man.
Yeah. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. Is there anything that you'd like to leave us with?
Yeah, just basically, if there's anyone out there that's struggling, man, just remember that there's always light at the end of the tunnel. There's always light at the end of the tunnel, even though sometimes, people think that their switch is turned off. You could turn that switch back on yourself, and you can pull yourself out of that depression and that bad place you're in, and, reach out if there's someone struggling with drink, drugs, gambling, get out there, reach out, and or if there's anyone that's out to being through trauma in any sort, make sure they go and deal with it. Because I can honestly say that trauma will always come back to haunt you if you don't deal with it the right way.
Awesome. All right, man. We'll let you go. Thanks so much for joining
Thanks, Daniel.
us. All the way from Ireland.
Thanks, buddy. Thank you.
Take care, my friend.
Cheers.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye-bye. All right. Well, thanks for watching. Go tell your friends about us, or we will send our dog to poop on your lawn.